I didn't know it yet, but the last normal night of my marriage ended with a hot dinner, a quiet smile, and a half-zipped suitcase. My wife, Dana, had been running point on what she called her make-or-break project for the last 4 months. It wasn't her personal venture, but she was the face of it, spearheading the launch that might salvage Grayson and Hartwell Technologies, a mid-sized firm on the brink of collapse. The board gave her full control, and Dana didn't fumble power. The pressure on her was real. I wasn't blind to it. If this rollout failed, her company was done, and so was the livelihood of 200 people. She made that clear more than once. I kept out of it, other than making sure she had a full plate when she got home and a quiet house to recharge in. Dana had the brains in our family, no question. Bachelor's from Mercer, MBA from Tulane. I came straight out of high school into a diesel repair garage, and I stayed in that lane. 21 years later, I was still there, running diagnostics, rebuilding Freightliner engines, bleeding brakes on rigs that couldn't afford to sit idle. I didn't mind. I was damn good at it. And it paid for everything. Her degrees, our house, the kids' activities, even her parents' rent for a few years when things got tight. We never had luxury, but we had enough. Dana got pregnant 3 months after our courthouse wedding, when we were both just 19. For years, we lived in my folks' basement while she took night classes. They had the space, 3 of my brothers had already moved out. My mom helped with the babies so Dana could finish her undergrad between pregnancies. That 4-year degree took her 6 years. It was a grind. I worked doubles when I had to, and I never once made her feel guilty for chasing something better. I didn't just carry us, I believed in her. When she graduated and we finally moved out, I felt like we were building something real. She got offers from big firms in Chicago and Charlotte, but she didn't want to uproot. She wanted to stay close to home, so she signed on with Grayson and Hartwell. Not the flashiest name in the tech sector, but it gave her room to grow. Within a few years, she was climbing. By the time this summit project came around, the one that would define her career, she was the only logical person to lead it. The final presentation was set for a Thursday at the Monroe Regency Hotel in downtown Richmond. She was presenting to investors and tech reps flown in from Sao Paulo, Berlin, and Osaka. Company covered everything: first-class flights, rooms, catered events. Even by corporate standards, it was an expensive Hail Mary. I took 2 days off to support her, but there wasn't much for me to do except make late-night sandwiches and stay out of her way. She had it all under control. That's how she worked, methodical, no room for chaos. She used the guest bedroom to lay out her clothes: a gray pantsuit, sharp white blouse, and 3 evening dresses that looked more suited for a gala than a business dinner. One in particular, a backless navy piece with mesh detail, stuck with me. I'd never seen her wear it before. I asked if she wanted me to come to any of the evening functions, maybe show face. She smiled and said it wasn't necessary. Everything she needed, presentation folders, projector, laptop, was already packed in the trunk of her company-leased Audi. She planned to drive herself up the day before, check into her suite, and have time to mingle with the guests. She was good at that part. Too good, sometimes. That night, while she was in the shower, I tried to be helpful and tidied up the bedspread where she'd been packing. I lifted her makeup bag to shift it to the dresser, and something slid out, a plain white envelope from a Red Grove pharmacy, one we'd never used before. Curious, I opened it. Inside was a blister pack of 10 small white pills labeled Levanel. The label was in her name. The date was recent, just that past Monday. The dosage instructions were simple but chilling. Take 1 pill immediately. Take second pill after 12 hours, if necessary. I'd never heard of it. I thought maybe it was for nerves or hormone stuff. But something in the wording didn't sit right. I slid the envelope back exactly where I found it. When she got out of the shower, I smiled like nothing happened. I went to the kitchen, waited for her to brush her hair, and sat down at the desktop computer in the den. I typed in the name. Levanel, emergency contraception, also known as the morning after pill. I stared at the screen. I'd had a vasectomy over a decade ago. That night, I crawled into bed beside her like I always did, and stared at the ceiling until sunrise. I didn't ask. I didn't accuse. I didn't say a single word. But everything in me had gone quiet. I got up before Dana did. No sleep, just the dull, dead weight in my chest that doesn't move no matter how you breathe. I threw on an old jacket and went for a walk. Nothing planned, just needed space. I didn't trust my mouth yet. The neighborhood was quiet. Our son, Mason, was stationed out in San Diego with the Navy, aviation electronics, or something like that. Our daughter, Camille, had moved to Little Rock with her husband after they got married last spring. That left just Dana and me in the house we'd built for 4 and now barely filled with 2. I missed the noise, missed the distractions. All that was left was quiet, and now, suspicion. When I got back, she was already dressed. Fresh blazer, hair pinned up, suitcase zipped, and staged by the door. She looked perfect, like she always did when she was working a room. She offered to make eggs. I said no. Just coffee. You okay? She asked. I'll be fine, I said, though I wasn't sure I believed it. I'd practiced that line all morning. She sat across from me, nursing her cup like we were just any couple on any Thursday. It's only 3 nights, she said. You sure you don't want to come with me? I can add you to the dinner guest list if you change your mind. I shook my head. Nah, I'd just be in the way. She gave me that half smile she used when she thought I was being overly sentimental. You're sweet, but I'll be stuck in meetings and schmoozing until late. You'd be bored out of your mind. I nodded, but didn't say what I was really thinking, that the idea of her being away no longer felt safe. I'll call you when I get there, she added, standing to clear the mugs. Promise. You want me to help with the car? No, I've got it. Everything's already loaded. Just got a gas up on the way. I stood on the porch and watched her pull out of the driveway, her taillights disappearing between the hedgerows I never had time to trim. I didn't ask her about the pills. I didn't ask why she needed lingerie for a tech conference. I didn't ask anything at all. That silence followed me through the whole morning, long after she was gone. Around 2 p.m., the landline rang. I answered. Hey, hon, just wanted to let you know I made it okay. You get checked in all right? Yep. Room 918. Pretty nice, actually. I'll call you later tonight. Got a lot to prep. All right. Drive safe next time. I will. Love you. I didn't answer right away. Love you too, I said, but it came out dry. I spent the rest of the afternoon staring at nothing. I didn't even bother changing out of the button-up shirt I wore for her send-off. Around 6 o'clock, I started driving north toward Richmond. I wasn't even sure why. Maybe I just needed to see something for myself. I didn't go straight to the Monroe Regency. I stopped for a cheesesteak at a dive near Broad Street and took my time finishing it. The longer I waited, the more I felt like a coward. But I kept driving. Around 8 o'clock, I pulled into the parking garage and sat in my truck for a good 20 minutes before stepping out. The hotel lobby was full of sharp suits, gold lanyards, and low murmurs in multiple languages. I grabbed one of the complimentary brochures from the concierge desk and studied the layout. Her company, Grayson and Hartwell, was booked under G&H Digital Summit, but didn't seem to have any rooms listed for Wednesday night. Just a full-day schedule for Thursday. That was odd. Dana said she wasn't planning to leave the building at all. Meetings, mixers, prep, then bed. I tucked the brochure into my jacket and started walking the common areas. There were 3 main dining areas. I skipped the family grill and the rooftop bar and ducked into the mezzanine lounge, which the brochure described as ideal for private executive meetings. Dim lights, jazz hum, booths instead of tables. And there she was, Dana, in a black cocktail dress I'd never seen, all curves and polish, sitting across from a man I didn't recognize right away. His posture was too comfortable. She laughed at something he said, leaned forward just slightly, and touched his wrist with her fingers. Not lingering, not overt, but enough. A waiter passed in front of me. I used that moment to duck into the corner booth farthest from the entrance. Candlelit table. I blew mine out with a quiet puff and ordered a bourbon to keep the seat. I watched them, not staring, just observing. She hadn't seen me. Neither had he. He looked vaguely familiar. Tall, dark blue suit, mid-50s maybe. Handsome in a politician sort of way. I flagged down the waiter again. Hey, I said, nodding toward the booth. You know that guy? Sure, the waiter said. That's Edgar Mallory, big shot state delegate. He's running for Congress next cycle. Likes to hold court in that booth when he's got company. And the woman? New one. The waiter shrugged. Don't think she's the wife. I nodded. That was all I needed. They weren't kissing. Weren't even touching beyond the occasional wrist graze. But it was all there, the eye contact, the leaning in, the second bottle of wine. I didn't need them to spell it out. Around 10:15, they rose together, smiled their goodbyes to the server, and walked out hand in hand. Not arm in arm. Hand in hand. They stepped into the elevator. I followed, staying behind a ficus near the bellhop desk. I watched the floor numbers. It stopped on the 3rd floor. Not Dana's floor. Not her room. Not her story. I waited. 10 minutes. 20. An hour. Dana never came back down. By midnight, I'd made up my mind. I didn't storm into that third-floor room. I didn't shout or punch walls. I didn't need to. I waited. I gave her every last chance to come back to her room, our room on the 9th floor. She didn't. The elevator stayed quiet. Her name never showed on the guest log again that night. By 1:30 a.m., I'd seen enough. I retrieved the overnight bag I'd stashed in the truck and went straight to the front desk. The clerk gave me a skeptical look when I asked for a new key card to room 918. "She's my wife," I said, pulling out my license. "I can FaceTime her right now if you want." Eventually, they relented. Nobody answered the call they made to the room. When I walked in, the lights were still off. The bed untouched. But the rest of the room, it was Dana to a fault. Neatly arranged folders. Labeled USB drives. A company-issued laptop, projector, her daily planner. Everything lined up like she was about to teach a master class. There was even a checklist taped to the inside of the closet door. Times, names, seating assignments, company acronyms I didn't understand. And on the dresser, the envelope from Red Grove Pharmacy. Still full. All 10 pills in their slots. I didn't know what to make of that. I sat on the edge of the bed for nearly an hour in the dark, thinking about how far back this went. Wondering if that wasn't the first time. Wondering how long I'd been a prop in someone else's climb. Then I got up and started packing. Not sloppily. Not like a man in a rage. Methodically, the way she would have done it. Her suits, folded. Dresses, layered. Makeup kit, zipped. Laptop, cords, every folder, projector. Even the clutch bag she'd left on the nightstand, all of it went into the suitcase. She'd left her purse in the room too. I took it. Took her phone. Took her presentation materials. Left 2 things behind. Her car keys and my wedding ring, neatly placed side by side on the glass-top dresser. I made one last sweep of the room, just to be sure I hadn't missed anything. By 3:40 a.m., I was back in the truck and headed north on the interstate, 2 suitcases in the back, and no idea where I was going. I drove until my phone rang. The hotel's number showed on the screen. "Yeah," I said. "Ray," it was her voice. Quiet. Small. "Where are you?" "I'll be at the house soon." That was all I said. Silence on the line. A long one. She didn't ask what I'd taken. She didn't ask why. She just said, "I'm sorry." Then she hung up. I turned my phone off. When I got home, I parked in the garage and carried everything straight up into the attic, the one corner of the house Dana never touched. The suitcases fit snug between an old crib and a box of Christmas lights. I didn't even have to move anything. Then I packed my own things. Tools first, clothes second. Old photo albums stayed. I didn't want to decide what to do with them yet. By 9 a.m., I was in line at the bank, signing withdrawal slips and listening to the printer clatter through my account history. Dana wouldn't be able to touch any of it. It was in my name only. I'd made sure of that years ago, more out of laziness than planning. Now it paid off. By noon, I was having lunch in a small diner in Hollow Creek, halfway to nowhere. The town had a couple shops, a park, and a bar that didn't open until 4. I paid cash for a 2-week stay in a prefab trailer near the river. Small. Furnished. Enough. I called Camille from a payphone. She already knew. "Mom told me what happened," she said. "Not all of it, but enough." "She tell you I caught her in Richmond?" "No," Camille said. "She just said she cheated." "And you left?" "She lose her job?" "Yeah, that morning. Company said she failed to show for the most important presentation of her life." "Yes, she didn't explain why." "She didn't have to," I muttered. "She made her choices." I gave Camille a number I'd be checking once a week. Told her to pass it on to Mason, but not to tell Dana where I was. She agreed. I didn't call again for a while. Instead, I got to work. Monday morning, I found a garage in town, Bell's Auto and Diesel, and asked if they needed help. The owner was suspicious until I told him I could pull an Allison transmission solo and quoted him the torque specs on a Cummins 6.7L without blinking. $20 an hour, under the table. No paperwork. No questions. By Friday, I had a rhythm. Walk to work. Fix things. Walk home. Watch TV. Drink a beer. Sleep. Weekends, I sat by the river. Nobody asked who I was. Nobody cared. Life, for the first time in a long while, was quiet again. About 2 months in, I got a call from Camille. She said Dana had moved out of our house and was living with her parents again in a small place outside Belmont Springs. No job, No updates. She didn't talk about the affair, not even to her own daughter. Mason called from the carrier a week later, just to say he was shipping out for a 6-month cruise. He didn't say much about his mom either, and I appreciated that. Both of my kids knew enough to respect what silence meant. I hadn't filed for divorce, and Dana hadn't either. I didn't know if it was laziness or guilt. Maybe it just felt final in a way neither of us was ready to accept. Either way, I didn't chase it. Eventually, I started going out again. Not much, just a local bar on the edge of town where the jukebox still played Merle Haggard, and they poured the kind of bourbon that didn't come with a story. 2 women, Shannon and Rita, drifted in and out of my nights. They weren't looking for anything long-term, and neither was I. It worked. Life went on. I didn't think much about Dana after that. Not until almost 5 years later, when someone knocked on my trailer door at 6 in the morning on a Friday. I was standing there in nothing but boxer briefs, holding a half-eaten apple and wondering who the hell was waking me up like this. The woman on my porch looked like she hadn't slept in days. The man next to her was calmer, but serious. "We're looking for Ray Castell," the man said. "Are you him?" "Depends who's asking," I said, stepping aside so I could grab some pants. "And how much coffee you're bringing?" "I'm David Marsh. This is my wife, Jenna. We came to ask for your help. It's about our daughter." I pulled on jeans and a t-shirt, waved them inside. The place was a mess. I didn't apologize. "She's 4.5, Jenna said, settling on the couch. "Adopted. And she needs a bone marrow transplant." David added, "You're listed on the original birth certificate as the biological father." I didn't say anything, just blinked. "I had a vasectomy almost 15 years ago," I said. "There's no way that little girl's mine. You might want to ask her mother about that." Jenna's face stiffened. "We would," she said, "if she wasn't dying." I stopped mid-sip. "Come again." "Liver failure," David said. 6 months, maybe less. "And the hospital won't accept her as a donor." Something about her mental state. That landed harder than I expected. Not because I still loved her, those feelings were gone, but because I hadn't imagined Dana would fall apart. I always thought she'd land on her feet, same as always. Turns out, people like her don't fall gracefully. They crash. Jenna handed me a manila folder. Medical notes. Adoption agency records. The birth certificate. Mother, Dana Marie Castell. Father, Ray Castell. I sat there for a while, quiet. Then I stood up. "You said you wanted help," I said. "I can't give you bone marrow, but I can give you the name of the man who should." They looked up at me. "He's a state senator now," I said. "Used to be just a delegate. Name's Edgar Mallory. Had dinner with Dana the night before her big presentation. Left the hotel holding hands." They went to his room. "You're sure?" David asked. "I watched the elevator panel," I said. "He's the only man I ever saw her look at like that." They stared at me, stunned, but I saw something flicker in David's eyes. "A plan. You get a DNA test," I told them. "You go public. Mallory cares about one thing, reputation. You hit the news cycle with a child dying and a senator ducking paternity, you'll fold faster than a Sunday paper. You think it'll work? You got a better idea?" They didn't. Before they left, I gave them Camille and Mason's contact info in case they needed more help. Then I asked them for something in return. "Tell me where she is," I said. They told me Dana was living in Pine Shore, just outside Pensacola. Small mobile home. No job. No visitors. I packed a duffel bag, got a haircut, and hit the road. It was late afternoon by the time I pulled into Pine Shore Estates, a tired little trailer park just off a stretch of road lined with dollar stores and pawn shops. The kind of place where ambition went to rot. Her old Volvo sat near the curb, the windshield spiderwebbed and one tire flat to the rim. That was my first sign. The woman who answered the door wasn't Dana. She was older than I expected, maybe mid-40s, with deep-set eyes and nicotine-stained fingers. Her shirt was too big, her voice hoarse. "Well, damn," she said, blinking at me. "You're Ray Castell." I nodded. "That obvious? Dana used to talk about you. Didn't think I'd ever meet the man. I'm here to see her." The woman, Sherry, stepped aside. She didn't say a word, just pointed toward a buffet table in the far corner of the room. There, centered neatly between 2 dusty ceramic lamps, was a brass urn. "She passed last month," Sherry said. "Liver finally gave out. Doctors said it was a miracle she lasted as long as she did." I stood there, frozen. Not from grief. From the weight of everything I'd carried suddenly lifting. "Beer?" she asked. "No, thanks." I sat down. Sherry told me Dana had never recovered after the affair. Not emotionally, not professionally. After losing her job, she cashed out her 401k, sold her shares in Grayson and Hartwell, and moved here with whatever was left. She worked briefly at a garment factory, shipping department, but drank through most of her shifts and was fired within months. She never dated again, never reached out. According to Sherry, Dana asked Camille for my number once. Said she couldn't bring herself to use it. She talked about you a lot, Sherry said. Said she ruined the only good thing she ever had. For a while, I said nothing. Then I nodded. 2 days later, I signed over the title to the trailer to Sherry for $1. Got $1,000 for the Volvo from a guy who planned to flip it. After that, I drove straight to Westmont, where David and Jenna lived. They greeted me at the door like family. They'd taken my advice and gone public. The local news ran a story about a young girl needing a bone marrow donor, and her biological father, a rising political star, who refused to acknowledge her. Mallory tried to bury it, denied everything. Then the DNA results hit. He was the father. Cornered by headlines and his own party's leadership, he agreed to the transplant. The procedure worked. The girl lived. His campaign didn't. Within a month, Mallory dropped out of the Senate race. His wife filed for divorce. And the carefully built image he'd sold to the public crumbled in one televised interview after another. He blamed political enemies. But the public didn't buy it. He didn't just lose the election. He lost everything. And Dana? She never knew. Or maybe she did, and it just came too late. Camille asked me to come to Dallas a month later. She had 2 kids of her own now, my grandkids. I brought gifts. I stayed the week. Mason called the night I flew back. Said he'd dodged a marriage to a woman who wanted him to leave the Navy. I told him I was proud of him. We didn't talk about his mother. We didn't need to. I still live near Hollow Creek. Different trailer now, one with working heat and a porch I built myself. Shannon still drops by sometimes, and on weekends, I go fishing. The rest? That's just history. Dana's gone. But she left behind a daughter, one I'll probably never meet, but who knows where she came from. She's alive. She's whole. That's more than most people get in this life. And me? I made peace with it all. No fire. No fury. Just truth, consequence, and a long, clean exit.